Hello and welcome to Stress and Purpose in Life. I'm your host, Stina Helenefors, and today we're exploring resilience, mental health, and the power of social emotional learning with an inspiring guest, Michelle. Hello, Michelle. Welcome to this
Hello.
podcast. Nice
Hi,
to meet
Stina.
you. How are
Nice
you?
to meet you. Well, I'm very grateful to be here. So thank you for having
Perfect.
me.
Perfect. And you're a mother and educator and mental health advocate, right?
That is correct.
You have your journey. You're going to talk about the journey a little bit on the podcast, and also your mission to create this foundation of mental health with special for people with special needs. Focus on
hmm
those two very important subjects. So
hmm
it will be really inspiring to talk to you, and I'm so glad to do that. So um, you will talk about your role you have in overcoming your own journey with resilience. You have also some adversities in your life from you can tell yourself in your family conditions and your children perhaps, and also the other stuff that you talked about. And I think that you tell me how much you want to tell about that. I mean, something that you discuss. You choose
Yeah.
yourself, of course. But anyway, you're here to transform mental health with resilience, right? And social emotional
hmm
learning. So we're gonna get to know you more about that and what you mean about that. So it will be exciting. So again, very warm welcome to you.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start from the beginning then. Uh, what could you please just introduce yourself to the people who do not know you and your. I mean, it's always interesting to get to know the person behind the stories and
hmm
why you have this passion for this mission that you have, this really big mission. It's very inspiring to hear. So where does that come from? And
Yeah. So again, my name is Michelle Dosanjh-Johal. I have been an educator for 25 years now, so a teacher in many different capacities, from high school to social and emotional learning to special education and all the grades in between. Um, but my journey with resilience really begins and is all about the stories of my children. And basically all of the different challenges and struggles that we've all endured as a family. And so um, to sorry, just need a second here, but you might have heard of like the dark night of the soul. And some people might encounter one dark night of the soul. And I feel like as a mother, I've just encountered so many.
okay.
And the journey has been really dark at times. And it's been quite a struggle. So
Mm,
it's a lot. And
yeah.
some of the things that I'm going to talk about it are a lot. But it would begin with my son was diagnosed with autism when he was 3. And with that diagnosis came an intellectual disability. But we knew that there was more going on. And you don't often hear of the word comorbidities. Like you might hear of autism, you might hear of an intellectual disability, you might hear of mental health, but you don't often hear that a lot of these things often come together. And that's where the struggle lies. So with my son, when he was 6 years old, he's 6 and he's
Mm.
kicked out of school for the first time,
At
a
six
little
years
child,
old.
for a week because they didn't have the proper support and we didn't know what
No,
was going on.
that is something really
So,
common. I think that's a universal problem in all countries. I think
right,
they
right.
don't have
And
the support that need for special need kids, and also
yeah, yeah, especially the complex ones. And my son and my daughter as well, a very
mm,
complex kid. But my son's complexities will come out in behaviors. And so I had to become a fierce advocate for both my children. So I took him to Children's Hospital here in Vancouver, and I refused to leave. And so he's a 6-year old, he's like bouncing off walls, and I refused to leave until somebody from mental health saw him. And they did give him some medication. At this point, we had tried also a naturopath, had taken him for brain scans with Dr. Daniel Amen in the States. They didn't see much more. We had started gluten-free, dairy-free, all the supplements. We had tried everything and things weren't working. And I knew something more was going on. And they, again, they wouldn't talk about his mental health. They would reduce it. It's the autism. Maybe he has ADHD, but autism will have, result in behaviors. But I knew as a mother, like in my gut, that there was more going on.
Yeah.
And by the time he was 11, this extreme depression showed up. So he would basically bolt out of the house, out into traffic, and he would flop to the ground, and he would try to, I know it's disturbing, but he would try to bang his head into the pavement, into the concrete. And that's when they finally diagnosed the depression. Yeah, so my son is, and then
it was this way of dealing with the pain, right? To feel pain.
Yeah.
Then.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And shortly after that, he was diagnosed with bipolar. So there was definitely more going on. But I remember one time when he had basically gotten past me, and we ended up eventually bolting the door. But at this point, he had gotten past me. He had run up into the street. He was running down the street past me, and the neighbor saw him, and the neighbor was helping me. And my son flops down, and he tries to, again, hit his head into the pavement. I grab his head to protect him. And I don't know why, but I just started laughing. I don't know why.
Okay.
It was just like the ridiculousness of the situation or something. And I'll never forget, the neighbor started to cry. And the neighbor looked at me. He said, "How in the world are you so strong that you can you can laugh in a moment like this when you're going through so much, And yeah, and that often replays back in my mind, this, I'm not sure where the strength come from. And that was something at the time I wasn't sure, and I had to examine where it came from, but we'll get to that later.
So where were your lowest point here as a mother? I think, because this is something that is ongoing. And what was your lowest
I haven't
point
even
there?
gotten to that. Yeah.
Yeah, you can keep on talking. Just feel free, because this is such an important subject. So just feel free to talk about the whole journey until where you came to, okay, I'm going to do something about this for myself, the mission that I came to, the journey towards that. So please just continue with that.
Thank you. Yeah. So my son is just half the story. Then we have my daughter, who we thought she was going to be the one who would be okay. But when my son was diagnosed with autism, and my daughter's older, 3 years older, and I saw little similarities, and I realized that the pediatrician had missed it in her. And so there are a lot of politics here. And so often, because so many kids are being diagnosed with autism, what I was noticing as a special education teacher, and I could get in trouble for saying this, but I'm going to speak my truth. What I was noticing was the high functioning ones were often not being diagnosed. They were being given every other diagnosis except for the one that was going to open up the funding, the money, right? Okay. So I took her private. Yeah, I took her privately. I got her diagnosed. And we were on a beach in Maui when I told her, and she was 9 years old when I told her for the first time. And the way I had explained autism to her was that, autism could be, it's so different. Everyone on the spectrum is a completely different person, and it can present very uniquely. Someone might not be able to talk at all, or you might be mid-functioning, somewhat like your brother, or you could have gifts, like Albert Einstein had gifts, but he wasn't social, so he likely was also autistic. And so that's how I had explained it to her. And I remember when I told her that she had it, she says to me, "Oh, great, I got the good kind." And I just thought, wow, here I was, sick to my stomach, worried about how to explain this to her. And
Oh,
she had this great perspective. And that's my
wonderful.
daughter. My daughter always had this wonderful perspective. When
Yeah,
she
great.
was also 9, she wanted to go find fairies at the Deer Lake Park. And I remember humoring her. I was like, yeah, let's go, Sylvan. Let's go find those fairies. And I got a magnifying glass and I was ready to go with her, humoring
Yeah.
her. And she knew I was humoring her, and she stops me and she looks at me and she says, Mom, there really is magic in the world. Magic is love and joy and laughter and all the good things. So magic is real. So
Oh, what a wonderful, intelligent daughter saying that
yeah,
at such a
yeah,
young
at
age.
9. And so she's always had this, she's always been really special and had this wisdom.
Yeah.
So when she ended up with this slew of year after year, another health issue and serious health issues, it was heartbreaking. So she ended up at 11 years old being diagnosed with a very rare disorder, and I'm pretty sure this is where everything else stems from: mosaic Turner syndrome, which is Turner syndrome is a very rare disorder. It's like a malfunction of the X chromosome, and so it's not
Yeah.
genetic, but it's just some kind of some kind of fluke that happens. And
Mm.
she it's 1 in 2,500 girls that it'll affect. So she ends up with a hormone condition, needs growth hormones, needs estrogen, progesterone, and she ends up with a heart condition.
Mm.
And so, like, God blessed the doctor who was suspicious just based on her height. And so he did this test. So we were very, very fortunate, because if he hadn't figured out that
No.
she has this condition, they would never have tested for her heart. And she needed open heart surgery. So
Yeah.
15 years old, she's going in for open heart surgery. And
What a
that's,
strong daughter you have to go
oh,
through that. And the mother.
she's incredible. She's my hero.
Yeah, I can
This
imagine.
kid, even the nurses were like just in awe, because she didn't complain. Full on open heart surgery, no complaints. 3 days later, she's ready to come home. One week
Three
later,
days later. Wow.
yeah, one week later, she's telling me she doesn't even need Tylenol anymore. So, um, and then unfortunately, that wasn't the last of it. Then she ended up in her grade 12 year. Um, After COVID, it triggered, and it's probably also related to the Turner syndrome. I don't know. Like I said, the word comorbidity, so many things come together, it seems. It's not just one thing that hits you.
Oh,
But you're-
it's always like that. I think
Mm,
as many times it's everything comes together in one big. But then
right.
it's always like that. I think many things happen in life that way. But it's
Hmm.
so terrible that it's the negative things. It could also be
Right.
positive.
Yeah.
So in
Yeah.
this journey, somewhere it became something positive, right? Because you
Eventually. Yeah.
yeah, eventually, and
Yeah.
if we go move further, because this is like a challenging situation for you and your family, right?
Hmm.
I can imagine. And when were the points where you thought, okay, now we have got this, and we have like I mean, the role that you have with all the adversities, when do you find out, okay, I'm going to do something about this instead of, I mean, you changed your career, and you had talked about something that you changed also. You didn't know
Right.
exactly your identity when
Hmm.
you changed your
Yeah.
career, because you had
Right.
to
Yeah.
change that,
So.
and somewhere there it was perhaps also a low point for yourself as
Hmm.
a career
Hmm.
woman.
Yeah.
But when did you say, okay, now I'm going to turn this around and make it
Right.
something as a mission for
Yeah.
me?
So that would have happened with the lowest part, the lowest point for us.
Yeah.
So the last little bit of her health journey, so she finished her, grade 12, she ended up with IBD, which is irritable bowel disease, and she ended up with blood transfusions. And there's probably some kind of, we know there's a connection now, but everything in retrospect that could have caused mental health issues, she had already gone through, from like trauma to illness to um, there's a genetic predisposition, and then also we know now that if your gut isn't healthy, it can cause mental health issues. And she had nothing left with that
Yeah.
disease. And so Christmas of 2023, so I've already painted the character of my daughter, right? So imagine this gentle, sweet, incredible child. It felt like she woke up another person, and my kid was no longer there. And it
Mm.
was like it to say that it was terrifying is an understatement. We didn't know what was going on. We didn't
No.
know. From one minute, she was like this angry teenager, and I thought, okay, well, maybe it's just she's just sick of being sick. But she's never reacted like that before. The next moment, she's acting like a toddler. And this is an
Yeah, I understand
articulate
that.
young woman now, now regressed to this state. And we didn't understand what was happening. The doctors didn't understand what was happening. The doctors thought she had some kind of brain infection. So they thought for 2 months, the neurologists were trying to rule out a brain infection. I think it was called NMDA, which is similar to the movie The Brain on Fire. They were trying to rule out that and other infections because
Okay.
she's immunocompromised. But it didn't end up being that. And I remember, so my lowest point was when she went to the hospital, and she's like everything to me. My kids are my
Of
everything to
course.
me. And
Yeah.
I didn't know if I was losing her or what was happening. And for the first time, I got mad at God,
Mm.
and I was angry, and having this angry conversation in my head. How could you, God? How could you? Like, how dare you? How could you do this to the kindest, sweetest, gentlest kid who's already gone through so much? And if she has mental illness on top of everything else, I will never forgive you. And how could you? And
Mm.
I remember hearing a voice very distinctly in my head responding, saying, but I gave her the best mother. And
Oh, you make me
and
cry almost.
I'm not claiming to be the best mom.
Mm.
I certainly didn't feel like it, and I'm not claiming that I heard the voice
But you
of
must have
God.
been
But that,
really strong as a mother in that situation, right?
yeah,
The
yeah, that
basis,
was,
the strong basis that you had that I don't think you developed that. You had that in you to take care of
yeah.
her,
So
perhaps. Is that what you
I
were going
don't
for?
know. I might have questioned myself, but that's
Yeah.
if I'm going to tell my story, I want to tell it truthfully, and that's honestly my experience of what happened. And
Yeah.
whether or not whose voice it was, mine, God, whatever it was, is just, regardless of that, something shifted in me in that moment,
Mm.
and I stepped into my power because I knew what I can control. And in
Yeah.
that moment, I was by her side day and night at the hospital for 1 month. And then every day at the hospital for another month. And she ended up spending 5 months last year,
And
2024.
that was last year. Okay. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, so it's very, very recent.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so your question was about, stepping away from my
Yeah, but
career
just
and
going
whatnot.
from that deep, I mean, that's quite recent then. So, but you
Yes,
anyway
very
had that
recent.
mission in your head. Did you have it for a long time prior, during this period as well, or that come after this difficult time?
I knew that I wanted to help in some capacity,
Yeah.
but yeah, after this time, I just stepped into it because
Mm.
so my daughter was recovering, my dad was really, really ill, and my workplace had become toxic. And I love my students. Like I said, I've been teaching in many different capacities and many different grade levels, etc., for 25 years, but for 5 years I had been teaching in a special needs classroom. And it's not that I stepped away from teaching entirely, but when the environment became toxic and I had all these other things going on, I knew something was going to break, and I couldn't afford for it to be me.
No.
My kids needed me. And so
Yeah.
as much as I loved those kids and everything that myself and my job share partner had built, I had to walk away and I had to learn to create. And I'm very bad at this because I'm like a lot of other people. I'll just give until I'm depleted. And I
Mm.
realized that, yeah, I could keep doing that. I could do it, but I'll be depleted. And I couldn't afford to do that to myself. So I created this boundary. And it was so uncomfortable because I thought to myself, oh my goodness, if I am no longer a special needs teacher in this classroom, then who am I? You know?
Yeah.
And change does that though. Change and metamorphosis, it's an uncomfortable place to be. Um, yeah, so, but it allowed me to step into the person I am becoming now
Mm.
and to create and start these missions. And I've created the social, and it allowed me the space to first of all be there for my children. And I'm also still working part-time, but I now get to run social and emotional learning groups for the
Yeah.
most part, which is my
Yeah.
favorite thing to do. Special education, it really does burn out people because there's such a lack of resources. And so
Mm.
I'm not doing, that part of things, that the part that was burning me out, but I'm still focusing on something that's important, which is something important to me, building emotional intelligence in children and resilience in children through social and emotional learning. And then I created a social emotional learning online course for kids that I just started. And I'm creating a resilience course now with all the strategies that I've learned from everything we've been through, a resilience course for women.
Great.
Yeah. So again, I had the space to do that.
Yeah, but then I think you always. I think that is like a mission that you have because you've been through so much. Regardless, this is your passion because that is your children. It's the most precious thing you have, and of course that if you get to work to contribute to that in there, of course that is a really great passion and such a very important mission, right? What
Thank
I was
you.
wondering, like, you talked about the mental health issues in Canada. They're
Hmm.
failing in different parts. How did
Hmm.
you? Because you talk about this future foundation of mental health, and
Hmm.
where are you at that point? Where are you going with that regarding your mission and also the situation in Canada? Can you tell first about what is the situation in Canada? Did you see here is
Right.
something that's really
Right.
totally wrong with the mental health issues,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
also about what your foundation will be about, and also how that will help Canada and also the people that are in in a vulnerable situation.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So baby steps, but to
Yeah.
start, so I don't want to sit here and complain because I am aware that despite its flaws, Canada still does have one of the best healthcare systems in the world,
Mm.
considering that free healthcare. And I would not be able to take care of my children and their medical needs if we didn't have that.
Mm.
However, I feel like we are slipping in many ways. When my daughter was in the hospital, hospitals were overcrowded. If people have been in hospitals here in the Lower Mainland recently, you would see stretchers and just stretcher upon stretcher of elders waiting for a room for care. And
Mm.
the most disheartening piece is mental health, because if we go to Hastings Street here in Vancouver, it is it's just overrun with homeless people, and it's
Mm.
heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking because if you think about it, um, at least 50% of people, most of these people have addictions,
Yeah.
and at least 50%, I believe the statistics are, of people who have addictions also have some kind of comorbidities, right? Mental
Yeah.
health or mental illness.
Mm.
And for example, half of people who have schizophrenia will cope with it through addiction. And so the bottom line is these people are not getting the support they need. And so it's going to be a step-by-step process. But I'm just, in order to create a big flame, you have to start with one match. And this is my match. This is my very first podcast. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to light that match, light the one candle, and then hopefully, it's step-by-step process. And so my very first step was to make sure as a mother that my children are in a place that they are balanced and as well as they can be, as happy as they can be, and we're finally getting there. They're knock on wood. I know mental health is up and down journey, but at this moment they're doing well. And then the second piece was my courses. So I created the social emotional learning course, my resilience course, which I created. I used an acronym called FAST. So FAST. To describe the pieces for the 6-week online course. And yeah, so it is to feel and express for the F, because we know if we don't feel and we don't express what is going on, cortisol is a killer, right? Stress will kill you. And there have been research studies done that I can get into, but I won't get into it now for the sake of time. But and then
we have time, so just if you want to, you also say a few words, please.
Yeah, I'm a big nerd. So if I start going on and on about the research, it'll be like you'll have me for hours. So
we can put that in the chat box or something, in the text afterwards. Otherwise, if you want to share something with that, because you shared something with me, right, about the statistics in Canada.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so we can perhaps share that as a text on the channel.
Oh, cool.
On the YouTube.
Okay, cool. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then the A and the S are to accept and surrender to that which we cannot change, because at the end of the day, it's the resistance that is creating the suffering, right? There are things we can't change. And we have to surrender to that, and we have to accept that. Like, do I want my kids to have so many health issues and mental health issues? Of course not. No mother wants that for their child. But this is where we are. So then I have to shift my focus to what it is that I can change and what can I control. I can't change the fact that they have this mental illness or mental health issue, but I can figure out what medications now will support them. I can get them the best care that I possibly can, and I can love on them, right? Because love is the thing. Love was my anchor through the crisis. Love was the thing that pulled me out of those really, really dark times, right? So find your anchor and find what you can change. And then the T is to transform through mindset and your gifts. And I was very fortunate. So I started I've always written, and I used to write a lot of poetry as a child. So as an adult, I came back to it. And my poetry was very healing for me. And it was an act of self-love.
You have a book. Do you have it with you there? Can you show
it? I do. So I wrote and published The Warrior Sings. And so for me,
love that title.
Thank you.
Is that also, you have like an Instagram also with that, right?
Oh yes, thank you. I would totally forgotten to mention.
No, but we can talk about that later. But it's the same name almost, like.
Yeah, So it's Mindful Warriors Way, and then I have another one that is at Mothers of Mental Health, and a newer Instagram. So because the Mindful Warriors Way is mostly my poetry and how I transformed, and so some of it's really dark because it's transforming the darkness, and I feel like it's alchemizing the pain, if you will, into art. And everyone can find their own gift, and everyone can find a way to do this. And then the last component of my program would be body. The body is sacred, and to take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
And so that's the resilience program that will be coming out in 2 weeks. It is called Make Stress Your Bitch.
That's a good name.
Yeah, you conquer it. It doesn't conquer you, right?
Oh,
And we have the tools and we have the means to do that. And I hope to be able to help show people that.
yeah, great.
And then the mental health foundation is something that I have in my brain, that's the ultimate goal. I want to be able to create something that will start to create systemic change, because it's the
Mm,
systems that need to change overall. Like I like to think big picture, um, and we need to be figuring out what policies need to change, what things need to change. And I know that
yeah.
as a teacher of 25 years, I know there are things that need to change in education, but clearly with mental health,
Mm,
we're failing. We're failing a lot of these people. And when I look at those people, it breaks my heart, because I think to myself, that could be my children. If my
yeah.
children didn't have us to support them, would that be my daughter out there? You know? Um, and to humanize the struggle, because there's a human behind all of that, right? So I was able to humanize my daughter here today.
Mm,
I was able to paint a picture of who she really is. But if you saw her in the middle of her psychosis, right, that's not
mm,
who she is. And when
no.
you see these people and they're going through and all these things, and they're looking kind of crazy, that's not who they are. We have to
No.
remember that's not who they are. This is the illness, right?
Mm,
And we stigmatize illness, and it's not
yeah.
okay to stigmatize mental illness, because it's
But
just
this
an
foundation
illness.
of yours, and because this is really, I also, this is one of my topics as well. I really, this is a mission, because it's so easy to all the young people that are in school today, and they got they don't get compromised.
Right,
They have the lack of knowledge in school, that they don't really, they can't use their knowledge in a good way, or they don't have time for it to really
right,
have those people
yeah,
that have the knowledge to really support
right,
those uh,
yeah. And I think,
yeah,
yeah,
the people that needs it the most. And then what can what that bring to society, I mean, also to people that are living, because I think many people have many disabilities in their home now. They
hmm,
have many diagnoses, from different kind of diagnosis, right? So,
right.
but really interesting, because but what do you aim with this then? Because depending on your foundation, then it will go based on school children, like in age, between which age are you like the target, or is it just everybody
Yeah,
in school, or is it also
yeah,
adults, or I mean, depending on
yeah.
the programs that you create,
I,
is that for the young
I think
people, or
it'll
is it for
be,
the
I
mothers
think
and
it'll be all. I think it'll be
yeah,
all people.
yeah,
And it'll be, yes, there'll be a component that is for special education, because those kids have a place, a special place in my heart. But there will also be a component for just all adults that are suffering with mental
mm,
illness.
yeah,
And to do some advocacy work and to help people be seen, and again, in some way destigmatize things. But again, I'm getting far ahead of myself, because this is the big vision, and I'm but still launching the programs. I'm still just
yeah,
lighting the one match and the one candle.
yeah.
I haven't gotten to the big flame yet, but
No, this is a good step to be on my podcast and then get the word out. So,
I mean, in my group grandest vision, we would be starting a revolution, right? A revolution of love. Let's see
wonderful.
people
Yeah,
through the eyes of love,
mm,
just like how love was the saving force that helped me through those dark times with my children.
yeah,
Um, let's see these people for who they really are, and just get them the help they need so they can get back to themselves, right?
yeah, that's
Let's not
wonderful.
let this happen where they're all on the streets.
Mm.
Yeah,
No, my heart goes out to them as well. I think it's also really something that's close to my heart.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Seeing the
I
people
know.
inside the inside. you know, who they are inside.
Yeah.
Really great talking to you about this. Can you
Yeah.
share something more about your work also and how people can connect with you? I mean, regarding,
Oh,
I think
yeah.
those programs of yours, they are not really published yet, but they are ongoing, right?
Well, no, the social and emotional learning program
Yeah.
is online, and it's
Oh.
targeted for mostly sensitive young adolescents or young children, and really high functioning adolescents on the spectrum. I am right now teaching it live as well. It's online, so anyone who wants to purchase can go through it with their child. But I'm also teaching it live right now with some ex-students of mine from the class that I had. Yeah, and so I have quite a big group, and yeah, so it's available, and it's available through Michelle Dosanjh-Johal mykajabi.com. So you can find it there. You could also find my work, my resilience course that I was for women that I was talking about will come out in 2 weeks' time. And it is also available on the same website, or you can find me at Mindful Warriors Way on Instagram and at Mothers of Mental Health.
We can put that on the chat box here also, so they can connect with you. Great. What an incredible, powerful conversation, Michelle. I'm so honored to have you here, and I think your work is going to change countless lives. It's going to be amazing. I think so. You have the power. You're born for this, and I think that you have your mission is. It shouldn't be. It's not too big, you know. It's a remarkable mission, and I think you just go on with the great work that you are doing, because it will change lives.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again. And I'm going to go to the viewers now. We're going to chat afterwards as well. Thank you again, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank you for having that you're on this. And if this episode now resonates to you guys that are listening, and I encourage you to share this with people, because this is a great topic, and it's many people that are in these situations, both mothers, parents, and the children themselves, of course. And they need to hear this, that they are helped to this great program that you have. It can change lives, and it is really a great topic to share, because I think many people will resonate with this, and also to help people in the situation that they are in. So great. It will inspire many. So thank you for that. And
thank you.
So if you viewers, if you like to share this, you can you see the QR code here, and also it's on YouTube and Spotify. So please go on here and share it. And also until next time, I mean, take care of yourself and trust your inner strength, right? And remember, transforming mental health together, and by social emotional learning and resilience, we do it together. And thank you again, and see you next time. Bye for now.
Thank you.